And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome to another round of the Conscious Raster Report here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, here on livinginblack.com. My name is Kedia Wado, aka The Conscious Rasta, and weekday mornings you and I get together live. We come at you from 9 a.m. Pacific time, that's 12 noon Eastern time, 5 p.m. GMT, and 8 p.m. East Africa time. We get together with you and we deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives, entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family affairs, Pan-African affairs, sustainable development, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Monday, the 11th of November, 2024 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6265 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we have realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the 7th millennium. You have found your family on LIB Radio, LIB TV, and livinginblack.com. We are still on our Monday studies of my upcoming book, Disaster Preparedness for World Wars 5 and 6, which, according to my analysis, and you've been following my analysis, I hope you have, we have very firmly entered the periods of World Wars 5 and 6. And so we've gone through the World War I, our reanalysis of what that was really about, how that led to World War II, and what that was really about. World War III, we defined it very clearly, leaving no room for ambiguity about what was World War III. World War IV, the global war against Islam. World War V, we covered a couple of weeks ago, or last week, the globalists' conspiracy versus the working middle class. And then last week, we also covered World War VI, NATO, Western civilization versus the BRICS plus the rise of the global South. So we are now going into the phase of the book, which is inherent in the title, Survival Preparedness. Survival Preparedness. That brings us to today's theme, Game Theory for Master's Level Studies. Today on LIB Radio, I have amassed a large folder of writings, reports, and analyses on this topic of game theory. Volumes of insights and analyses make up this collection. It is literally the subject of higher education course study, especially within the elite level of graduate university systems serving national leadership. I believe it is due time that those of us who wish to comprehend global competition, strategic positioning in international relations, war and peace, as well as business competition, understand the vital importance of game theory toward global affairs of the past, present, and more importantly, the future that we would seek to master. That is the theme of today's conversation. I've got a lot of research on the table. Now, I've covered game theory. I'm pretty sure this is at least my fourth broadcast on the topic. You've heard me mention it quite a bit. Several times a week, I'm going to be talking about mentioning the importance of game theory and of understanding what is going on. So, as the old saying, if you don't know me by now, then you'll never, ever, ever understand why this has become such a critically important topic, not just among myself, but amongst the intellectual Pan-Africans that I roll with. And I roll hard with some brilliant, brilliant people. Many of you are listeners and contribute to the program as well. So that is what we are up to today. We're revisiting this theory or this subject of game theory. I encourage you, our listening audience, to get involved. We are broadcasting on multiple channels today, including I do have YouTube stream is up and running today. For those of you who view us on YouTube, I have a secondary YouTube channel that I had been using just more for personal. But after the Alphabet Corporation dumped my entire catalog of videos that had been building up for over 14 years, then I decided, well, I'll just put a few programs out. And those of you who view me on YouTube will know to go to Rumble and look for LIB Radio. Look for Tidi Awadu on Rumble. They do not censor. I'm also up on X Twitter. They do not censor. Facebook has Mark Zuckerberg, you heard him make his pledge. He's going to stop censoring information at the request of the Biden administration. He admitted it. That was what was going on. And that my admonitions and censorship on Facebook has decreased by probably at least 90%. And I appreciate that decrease, but it's still not free speech. You either say you pledge to free speech for the Republic. It is the First Amendment to the Constitution, freedom of speech. You either live it and follow it and abide by it with whatever negative consequences might happen, or you are hypocrite. And we understand that is what it is. But insofar as those struggles, this is what we do. I am a journalist. I've been a journalist for half of my life. Yeah, half of my life. I've been writing and publishing since 1979, more than half of my life. Been publishing as a journalist. So it's an honored tradition. I'm proud to be in it. Let's go into today's analysis. Again, game theory for master's level study. Now, as I go to switch over to the book that I'm writing, let's go into this topic right now, and let's push it up so I can actually see what it is. Game theory for master's level study. I began each chapter with a quote. This first quote, actually two separate quotes from the same writer, Thomas C. Schelling. Game theory is a way of thinking about strategic interactions that can help us understand everything from economics to politics to everyday life. And the second quote from the same Thomas C. Schelling, game theory is a powerful tool for understanding the dynamics of conflict and cooperation. It helps us to see the world through the eyes of others and to anticipate their actions. Thomas C. Schelling. I began this chapter with the sub-chapter, Put Me in the Game, Coach. When it comes to practical means of comprehending the impactful changes happening in international politics, it is best that we have effective tools for analyzing what are often seemingly disconnected, disparate events. Within my studies across global affairs of recent decades, I finally came across the idea of game theory as such a tool for analysis. It took some time to completely comprehend the critical importance of this system of interaction, response, and strategic positioning that has been formalized as game theory. Comprehending it as I have grown into understanding, I do my best to reveal its critical importance to all who would be interested in having such an important, powerful tool to use toward the aim of understanding, predicting, and counteracting strategic engagement across a broad spectrum of human behaviors, especially regarding competition between powerful agents. Here is how the application of game theory in international politics was explained in World Politics, a quarterly journal of international relations in June 2011. They wrote, and I quote, "Game theory is elaborated as a theoretical approach to international politics by contrasting it with metaphorical and analogical uses of games. Because it embraces a diversity of models, game theory is especially useful for capturing the most important contextual features of the international system that affects prospects for international cooperation. Through a discussion of the relation among and extension of different game models, the versatility and scope of game theoretic approaches to international relations are demonstrated. Special attention is paid to the empirical issues of international politics, which are raised by game theory and are analyzed in other articles in this symposium." So, responding to that, I wrote, "Throughout this year, I've shared a series of broadcasts on the subject of game theory. Here's how I introduced the topic on one of my weekly broadcasts, Tech and Future Talk. The more that we look into this strategic competition for control and domination for the next 500 plus years of planetary dominion, we increasingly come to the conclusion that it is time for the reversal of the positions of those who colonized and their former victims." One second. "To win the game requires that competing groups are aware of the nature of the contest, its rules, strategies, and ultimate consequences. Africa is rising. We got next." That was the introduction. Today I wrote, "Naturally, I have amassed a large folder of writings, reports, and analyses on this topic of game theory." I use this for the introduction. I'm repeating it now. "Volumes of insights and analyses make up this collection. It is literally the subject of higher education course study, especially within the elite level graduate university systems serving national leadership. I believe it is due time that those of us who wish to comprehend global competition, strategic positioning in international relations, war and peace, as well as business competition, understand the vital importance of game theory toward global affairs of the past, present, and most importantly, the future that we would seek to master." Note the following by Chidilizzi Marwala of its application in international politics. And Chidilizzi Marwala is from South Africa. I do have a reference to where this comes from in the footnotes here. He wrote, and I quote, "Game theory has become an indispensable tool in international politics, offering valuable insights into the complex and strategic decision-making processes that govern the interactions between nations, international organizations, and non-state actors. As a mathematical framework for understanding strategic behavior and predicting outcomes, game theory allows scholars and policymakers to model and analyze the myriad of factors that influence the actions and choices of actors on the international stage. This chapter explores the role of game theory in international politics, highlighting its key concepts, applications, and contributions to our understanding of global dynamics. Additionally, we discuss the potential limitations and challenges of applying game theory in the intricate and ever-changing landscape of international politics. Now, again, that citation, I have that right here in the footnotes, Game Theory and Politics by Chiselidze Marwala from Artificial Intelligence, Game Theory, and Mechanism Design in Politics. That published August 2023, pages 11 through 24 was where that was excerpted from. So again, I love sharing references to where I get this information and giving respect to those who do produce wonderful critical analyses for your and my access and comprehension. Let me just take a moment here and greet my beloved sister for Africa One, Hatep, Brother Kiti, and Global LB family. You know you're doing something right if you're upsetting our corporate adversaries. Respect. I appreciate, love you for your kind words and your support, beloved. Ubuntu. I am, because we are upsetting our corporate adversaries. And so I'm very honored and pleased that you allow my engagements, conversations, dialogues, research to represent the team that we are both absolutely committed and loyal to. Ashe, 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 yo. Let's continue. We're now going into this very important, comprehensive, and I would say for Africa One, this is really groundbreaking, what I'm about to share. In understanding game theory, we're looking for these tenets, these key principles, these key ideas, applications. I put together a comprehensive list. This list is in alphabetical order. So those of you following along, it's not that I prioritize these in the order that they come. Well, actually, is this in alphabetical order? No, this is not in alphabetical order. So I guess they do prioritize. Here's what I say. This is 29 keys to understanding game theory. Now, 29 might seem like a lot, but once you get the book, once you read the chapter again, have the discussions with your friends, associates, your study group about this, these 29 keys will instantly trigger in your mind. You will recognize the patterns and therefore be able to better predict the outcome of the patterns that you witness occurring in the world. Most of the time, we have to understand what I'm about to say. Most of the time, this understanding of these 29 keys happens only in the minds of those elites who have been systematically, profoundly students of game theory, international politics and competition, war and peace, business competition. I'm giving us, our team, access to a bigger tool set than they are taught. 29 keys to understanding game theory. And the book is not finished. I may have more than 29 keys, but I think that these 29 are quite comprehensive. You will notice that they do overlap as it applies to global political, economic, and social competition. Game theory is regarded by many as a reliable framework for understanding, quote, strategic interactions among rational decision makers, unquote, adding emphasis on, quote, rational decision making. So I set out on another day to further my knowledge, understanding, and ultimate mastery of this thing called game theory. Combining results from multiple AI search engines along with my previously accumulated insights on the subject, here is a comprehensive listing of keys to understanding game theory in global political, economic, and social competition. 1. Games. Structured scenarios where players make strategic decisions. These can be cooperative or non-cooperative and adversarial. Non-cooperative and adversarial. 2. Players the decision makers in the game, which can include individuals, organizations, or countries. Again, these decision makers can be individuals, organizations, or countries. These are players. Number 3, strategies. The plans of action that players can choose from, which may involve cooperation or competition. Strategies are aimed at achieving the player's objectives. So action plans. Anything other than an action plan, it doesn't matter. Action plans. Number 4, strategic interdependence. Game theory assumes that players' payoffs are contingent on each other's strategies, highlighting the interconnectedness of global competition. Key number 5, rational decision making. Game theory assumes that all players, individuals, nations, or organizations, act rationally to maximize their self-interested payoffs. It posits that players strive to maximize their payoffs, assuming rational behavior, which informs global political, economic, and social interactions. And rational behavior, logic, is very important. Number 6, payoffs. The outcomes of the game are based on the chosen strategies of the players, often represented in a numerical format. And often represented in a measurable numerical format. These measurable outcomes are the direct result of the strategies they and others choose. The payoff matrix describes a visual representation of the possible outcomes and payoffs for each player, essential for analyzing strategic interactions in global competitions. The payoff matrix. I like that idea. That payoff matrix immediately sparks in my mind a vision board. A payoff matrix, a vision board. And let me just make a note to self, that payoff matrix, which in my mind sparks the idea of a vision board. It describes a visual representation of the possible outcomes and payoffs for each player, essential for analyzing strategic interactions in global competitions. Real quickly here, one more correction. Okay, here we go. Let's continue. Number 7 of the 29 keys to understanding game theory. Number 7 is called Nash equilibrium. The concept of Nash equilibrium, named after John Nash, describes a stable state where no player can improve their payoff by unilaterally changing their strategy, applicable to global competitions. This concept is crucial in predicting stable outcomes in competitive scenarios. Within this often described game situation, no player can improve their payoff by unilaterally changing their strategy, given the dynamics created by the strategies of others. I'll repeat that last sentence because it's very important. Nash equilibrium takes a little bit of study and different examples to comprehend it, but as many times as I've gone through this, I understand Nash equilibrium. Now I'm just looking for instances of it in real life, such as The political contest that just occurred within the United States. I'll repeat that last sentence. Within this often described game situation, Nash equilibrium, no player can improve their payoff by unilaterally changing their strategy, given the dynamics created by the strategies of others. Number 8, Prisoner's Dilemma. This classic game illustrates the tension between individual and collective interests, demonstrating how cooperation can be suboptimal in global competitions. This dilemma is a classic demonstration of the Nash equilibrium, illustrating how two rational individuals might fail to interact, even if it appears that it is in their best interest to do so. Number 9 of these 29 keys to understanding game theory is called dominant strategy. A strategy that is optimal for a player regardless of what the other players do. If a player has a dominant strategy, they will always choose it. Number 8, zero-sum games. Situations where one player's gain is exactly another's loss, meaning the total payoff remains constant. And I use that example to describe cryptocurrency markets. They are essentially zero-sum games where one player's gain is exactly another's loss, meaning that the total payoff remains constant. Number 9, non-zero-sum games. Ooh, wait. My numerology, my numbering here on my system went off. And I went to 8, 9, and then I repeated 8, 9. So let me just correct this numbering system. And bear with me here. And get this right. Okay. Numbering. Continue numbering. Nope, that wasn't right. Bear with me. This is worth waiting for. And it's kind of glitching here, like my memory. Okay, it did continue. So we got up to, let me just double check this. And we got up to number 9. It's acting like it wants to collapse. Let's see if I can just get through this. Number 9, dominant strategy. Number 10, we covered zero-sum games. Number 11, non-zero-sum games. Okay, sorry about that, everybody, but the computer is glitching right now. And let me just do a little RAM clearance and see if it comes back. Okay, it comes back. Number 11, non-zero-sum games. Scenarios where all players can benefit or suffer together, allowing for cooperation and mutual gain. The next one, and my numbering got off, but I'm not going to correct it right now because the computer acts like it wants to crash. The next one, cooperative games. This will be number 12. Scenarios where players can negotiate and form coalitions to achieve better outcomes collectively. And this we see happening. This is World War VI, as I described in this book, which is the West/NATO versus BRICS Plus and the non-aligned nations. We are up to we got zero-sum, non-zero-sum, cooperative games. The next is non-cooperative games. Games where players make decisions independently, often leading to competition rather than collaboration. The next on the list, dominant strategy. A strategy that is the best choice for a player regardless of what the other players do. Now, did we cover this one a little bit earlier? Dominant strategy, yes, we did. So no need to repeat that. Number 13, mixed strategy. A strategy where a player randomizes over possible moves. Often used when no pure strategy is dominant. In this scenario, players choose between possible moves according to a probability distribution. So we are seeing that AI is now being applied in game theory, and that description of mixed strategy sounds to me like they're using AI to identify probabilities, and then of course players have a choice amongst these probability distribution that are being put forward. Here we go, and I did get some modicum of control restored. That was number 15 or 14, whatever. I'm gonna have to stop using the numbers because I have to go back and correct my numerology. I did repeat one called dominant strategy. The next number, extensive form games. Representation of games that show the sequential nature of decisions, often depicted in tree diagrams. Sequential meaning one step leads from the previous step, which leads from the previous step, which goes to the branch. So that's extensive form games. The next of these 30 keys, experimental evidence. Laboratory experiments and field studies can test and refine game theory prediction, informing the development of more effective strategies in global competitions. And this becomes very, very important. Laboratory experiments, field studies, testing, experimental evidence. Now, we don't do this as individuals. We do this as an empowered collective. Once we understand this, then maybe we will find a way to better collaborate, cooperate with the best minds available. Right now, unfortunately, to a great extent, that collaboration, collectivization of our efforts is only done amongst elitist circles, elite circles, and some of these elite circles are pretty damn ineffective, such as religious and or pan-Hellenic or caste-based systems. Some of our finest minds do not belong to these elite organizations. Next on this list of 30 keys, simultaneous versus sequential games. Simultaneous games are played without knowledge of the other's players' choices, while sequential games are played in turns, allowing players to observe previous actions. So when we talk about simultaneous versus sequential, sequential means it's like a game of chess or checkers or whatever. It's predictable that you will make a move, I respond and or make a countering aggressive move. You have a chance to observe my move, then you make your next move. That's the game of chess. It's a great game. It really is. But in this situation, they're talking about simultaneous versus sequential, that if I have a strategic plan in mind with a massive payoff outcome in mind, I don't necessarily have to wait on you to counter the last move I made. I make sequential, simultaneous moves. The next number, 17. Repeated games. Situation where the same game is played multiple times, allowing for strategies to evolve based on past interactions. Repeated games are played more than once, allowing for strategy evolution and reputation efforts. Is that word reputation? It looks like it should be refutation. I'll double check it a little bit later. replication. I think that's what it is, replication efforts. I'll correct that word. But here's what I'm hearing there. When we looked at what happened in January 2020 that caused the whole world to be thrown off because of international health policies, the thing about it is I saw it in real time because I had done so much study of the exact same similar operation by almost the exact same people. Names were on the list in 1984 that appeared on the list in 2020, especially Mr. Fauci. So therefore, we saw it in real time. I was talking to a friend of mine, Brother Shujan, brilliant mind. And he was one of very few, not the only one. Brother Reggie Redley comes to mind. Brother Mombera come to mind, of people who understood what I was saying, what we were saying. I was not the only one. Phil Valentine was saying the same thing, and a number of others. Dr. Laila Africa was saying the same thing. That during the early 1980s outbreak of acquired immune deficiency syndrome, we saw it in real time, said, this ain't real. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make logical sense. I identified 5 Nobel Prize winning scientists, including Dr. Kary Mullis and others, Walter Gilbert, who said the same thing. This does not make logical sense. Peter Duesberg, who wasn't a Nobel Prize winner, but he was on track to be a Nobel Prize winner. Dr. Luc Montagnier, who won a Nobel Prize for his discovery of LAV, lymphocytic associated virus, which ended up becoming HTLV3 when Gallo stole his samples and claimed discovery. Luc Montagnier won a Nobel Prize for his discovery of something that he later says the body can clear this and usually clears this in just a week or two. So we understood it. We heard it. I heard this 2020 outbreak in real time. And I did 3 days worth of studies. If you were with us in that time on LNB Radio, most of our broadcasts were live on YouTube at that time. They have since canceled all of those. I still have these reports. Maybe I should find them and push them back up. But here we are 3-4 years later. There's a lot more that we understand now. And I don't necessarily want to have to repeat myself for stuff that's partial comprehension of what it eventually became. But we saw it in real time. That is repeated games in game theory. The next one, game forms. Key concepts of game theory, game forms. Various game forms, known as the Traveler's Dilemma, can be applied to analyze real-life situations, including global economics and political interactions. Number 19, evolutionary game theory. Applies principles of game theory to evolving populations in biology, economics, and social sciences. Evolutionary dynamics game theory can be used to study the transformation of strategies and outcomes over time, providing insights into the dynamics of global competition. And that almost sounds like a separate one, evolutionary game theory and evolutionary dynamics game theory. It's not that it is the same one, but dynamics incorporates the fact that this is evolving, expected to evolve. Well, and that's the word evolutionary. So let's go forward. Information asymmetry. This is a big problem. This is a huge problem. Information asymmetry occurs when one player has more or better information than the others, significantly impacting strategy and outcomes. Incomplete or uneven information distribution among players will significantly impact strategic decision-making in global competitions. 21 on this list, and I'm going to redo this list here. Maybe I can do it at the end of this conversation. or at the end of this subchapter. 21, signaling. Players may use signals such as threats or concessions to influence others' strategies and desired outcomes in global competitions. And this signaling also, you could consider propaganda to be signaling. You could also consider bluffing to be signaling, or kind of tactical assaults, signaling. 22, coalition formulation. This is the basis of the chapter World War VI, the West and NATO versus BRICS Plus. Coalition formation. The formation of temporary alliances or coalitions can be a strategic response to global competitions, allowing players to pool resources and increase their bargaining power. 23, mechanism design, a field related to game theory that focuses on designing systems or institutions that align individual incentives with overall social objectives, and overall social or national objectives. Very important. 24, bargaining theory, a branch of game theory that studies how players negotiate and reach agreements, often under conditions of conflict or competition. Excuse me. In this situation, players are forced to negotiate to reach mutually beneficial agreements. Bargaining theory. Yeah, that's how you resolve war and crises. That's how you implement peace. Donald Trump is just been re-elected. He will be inaugurated in January. But he says that among the first thing he's going to do is engage in bargaining theory. He doesn't put it that way. I don't think Trump doesn't appear to understand what game theory is about, to negotiate an end to the Russo-Ukrainian war. That obviously would be a good thing, should he be able to do so. I'm going to take 1 second here. Let me just pause, clear my throat. And I am back. We are again talking about 30 keys to understanding game theory. Number 25, backward induction. This process helps explain how competitors, such as companies, can engage in cutthroat competition, steadily ratcheting prices lower to gain market share. Backward induction, that's called. Next, time inconsistency. The potential for players to engage on commitments or change, to renege, not engage. Let me repeat. Time inconsistency, the potential for players to renege on commitments or change strategies over time, can undermine cooperation and stability in global competitions. Number 27, the Cournot competition. The economic model describes rival companies competing on output quantity independently and simultaneously without collusion, thus illustrating the dynamics of global market competition. And we can see that in play now between Western automobile manufacturers and China, which Western automobile manufacturers still attempting to maintain a broad spectrum of products, including internal combustion engines in the marketplace, some such as Toyota even experimenting with hydrogen-fueled vehicles, hydrogen-powered vehicles, while China as a nation made its commitment to electric vehicles, EV, and China has come to absolutely, completely dominate global production of EV vehicles to the point that Western countries are putting huge tariffs on the import of Chinese manufactured EV vehicles, which are huge quantities, which brings their price down significantly, half the price of a lesser quality EV vehicle produced in the U.S. automobile manufacturing. So that has caused this Cornot or Cornat, you could pronounce it but it's a French word, Cornot, competition. That has caused quite a stress across this global competition. Number 28 on this list, applications in international relations. Game theory can be applied to understand conflicts, alliances, trade negotiations, and other strategic interactions between nations. And the last on this list, number 29, listed here, I think it's number 30. I'll double check that in a second. Contextual factors. Game theory should be applied in consideration of contextual factors, such as cultural, institutional, and technological differences, to better understand global political, economic, and social competitions. So, in closing this section, I write, game theory is a fascinating and complex field that provides valuable insights into strategic decision making in various contexts, including global politics, economics, and social competition. Understanding these concepts can provide valuable insights into the complexities of global interactions. Game theory helps model and predict behaviors in international relations, trade negotiations, and competitive markets. And I would also add to that, and war and peace. So there is that subchapter. Next, we're going to come back with what game theory tells us about politics and society. But one thing I want to do right now, let me just see. I shouldn't do this on the air, but I can do it and get away with it. I just need to clear up how many of those were on that list of keys to understanding game theory. So what I'm going to do is I highlight this entire paragraph, remove my numerical counting, and then I put it back on a second time and just clear this up. And just a little bit of formatting here. This, when I'm writing books, this is what we have to do, is format and make the distance between paragraphs 6 points. Okay. Okay, so now the total number of these key principles to understanding game theory is 31. No, there's 30 because I need to eliminate one of these. And let me do it while I'm at it. It was dominant strategy. What was it? It was, I'll figure it out a little bit later. I think it was dominant strategy. Cooperative, yeah, dominant strategy. I'm going to eliminate that one, X that, and then I will attach it to the end of the previous one. And there we go. So, having done that, I'll just highlight that and finish fixing that up. So now it is up to a total of 30, which now appears in the chapter title. For those of you who want to write a book, publish a book, I teach you how to do what I'm doing right now, but I do not teach anyone to do this while you're broadcasting. We're going to go forward. What game theory tells us about politics and society? While this book is a comprehensive analysis of conflict, war, and political violence, I do not accept the inevitability of perpetual war dominating the affairs of nations indefinitely into the future. To the contrary, if it were within my power to articulate these critical issues included in disaster preparedness for World Wars 5 and 6, the goal is to transform the consciousness of our generation, put an end to political violence, and bequeath to future generations a peaceful and prospering humanity. Therefore, we study with intense focus the history of and issues relative to these global conflagrations that constitute worldwide violence and aggression that we are describing as, quote, world wars, unquote. Among many valuable pieces of information that I have amassed to support the ideas put forward in this book is the following piece published by the news office of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, written by Peter Dzikes and published by the MIT News Office in December 2018. The article, What Game Theory Tells Us About Politics and Society, had the following to share on how game theory facilitates our understanding of institutions, networks, and social dynamics. The Dzikes report read in part, quote, Alexander Wolitsky leans back in his office chair, pauses, and starts to describe, quote, cycles of conflict and economic model, unquote, a journal article he co-authored. There's a simple idea in that paper, Wolitsky offers, describing its thesis. While conditions of mistrust can lead to political violence, they may also change as antagonists better understand their opponents, leading to an eventual reduction of hostilities. Wolitsky's work is a blend of streamlined concepts like this and complex social phenomena. A professor in MIT's Department of Economics, he deploys game theory, the formal study of strategic decision-making, to illuminate observed behavior across a range of political and social institutions. Almost no topic is off limits. Wolitsky builds models concerning war and international affairs, labor relations, networks, technology adoption, and more. Quoting from Wolitsky, we have the view that economic institutions, the way governments are set up, norms, laws, are all very important for economic development, for growth, unquote, Wolitsky says. But they can be vague concepts. What do these things mean? His work digs into the mechanisms underlying those concepts. So again, the analysis is getting rather heavy, rather deep, but we understand this is a world where intellectuals model what is happening in the world and hopefully relate that to politicians who can use that, or governance politicians who can use that to create a better world, not just a higher level of dominance, of usurpation of other people's skills and talents and natural resources. But no, let's build towards collaboration, cooperation, the world that we would give to our children and future generations. And let's take back what is rightfully ours from the exploitation that others will or have and continue to engage. We can do better than that. We can do better than that. Looking to see, do I have any other comments coming in from a listening audience? Nobody talking to me today. Make sure you do at least hit the like button wherever you are tuned in. I would love to see you in the house. Ethnic Dreams, I see you in the house there. On You Now, Aquava, welcome. And for Africa One, we said greetings and respect exchange earlier. We have a good sized audience, but some days I'll have a good sized audience, but people won't talk to me. Can you at least be encouraged to hit the like button wherever you're viewing, especially on our Rumble family? We want to stand out from the crowd. I don't have the money to be advertising, even though it would definitely serve our best self-interest for this forum to be able to advertise. We just don't have that kind of money. But let's go forward. Picking up where we left off, we're still on this chapter, this subchapter. What game theory tells us about politics and society. A critical work for our understanding of this crucial topic is Duncan Snydell's 1985 work, The Game Theory of International Politics. It is highly recommended for those of us to seek understanding of international cooperation and conflict. It applies the process of game theory to analyze strategic interactions among nations, highlighting the importance of relative gains and the trade-offs between cooperation and competition. Snydell's framework helps to explain why competing parties cooperate or defect, even when cooperation seems mutually beneficial. His theory also sheds light on the role of institutions and power asymmetries in shaping transnational relations. By providing a nuanced and rich background to strategic affairs, Snydell's work informs policy decisions and serves to enhance comprehension of international politics. Here are 12 highlights from a summary of The Game Theory of International Politics by Duncan Snydell. So here are 12 highlights from his work. Number 1, rational choice. Snydell applies game theory to international politics, assuming that nations act rationally to maximize their interests. Point 2, strategic interaction. The book focuses on strategic interactions between states, highlighting the importance of reciprocity, credibility, and reputation in international relations. Point 3, cooperation under anarchy. Snydell explores how cooperation can emerge in the absence of a central authority, using game theoretic models to analyze international cooperation and conflict. Point 4, economic rewards versus economic sanctions. The author discusses the effectiveness of economic incentives versus sanctions in achieving international cooperation and resolving conflicts. Point 5, signaling and commitment. Snydell examines how states use signaling and commitment mechanisms to convey their intentions and build trust in international interactions. Point 6, reputation and credibility. The book emphasizes the role of reputation and credibility in shaping state behavior, as states seek to maintain a positive reputation and avoid being perceived as unreliable or hypocritical. Point 7, bargaining and negotiation. Snydell applies game theoretic insights to the study of international bargaining and negotiation, highlighting the importance of sequencing, timing, and issue linkage. This becomes very, very important when negotiating the end to conflicts. Number 8, international institutions. The author analyzes the role of international institutions in facilitating cooperation and resolving conflicts using game theory to evaluate their effectiveness. Number 9, power and influence. Snydell explores how states use power and influence to achieve their goals, including the use of coercion, diplomacy, and economic leverage. And coercion would be violence, state-sponsored. So again, let me repeat. Snydell, this is power and influence. Snydell explores how states use power and influence to achieve their goals, including the use of coercion, violence, state-sponsored, diplomacy, and economic leverage. So, bear with me. Got it. Okay. Number 10, uncertainty and asymmetric information. The book acknowledges the presence of uncertainty and asymmetric information in international interactions, highlighting the challenges of making informed decisions in such environments. Number 11, evolution of international relations. Snydell's work contributes to a deeper understanding of the evolution of international relations, highlighting how game theoretic insights can inform our understanding of historical and contemporary international politics. And number 12, interdisciplinary approach. The book demonstrates an interdisciplinary approach, combining insights from economics, political science, and international relations to provide a comprehensive understanding of international political affairs. And this, I would say, this facilitates forward looking and acting toward national self-interest. So I write, these highlights provide a summary of the key concepts and themes in Snydell's The Game Theory of International Politics, showcasing the book's contributions to our understanding of international relations and strategic interaction. Now that we have acquired a solid foundation for comprehending the strategic importance, and bear with me, why did this do just what it did? Styles normal. Okay. I don't know what that was about, but we recovered. These highlights provide a summary of the key concepts and themes in Snydell's work, The Game Theory of International Politics. Now that we have acquired a solid foundation for comprehending the importance of game theory, it becomes clear that our duty is to apply what we've come to understand toward creating the world that we would pass on as an enrichment for future generations. Let's get busy with our own strategies and tactics toward this aim. Put me in the game, coach. We need a win. Put me in the game, coach. We need a win. Next, subchapter of this chapter, we're talking about game theory in this chapter. And I don't know if this subchapter would work, or it might be a separate chapter. Let me see how much time I have. I think, here, let me just, yeah, this is the next chapter. And so I'm just going to cut it for today and put in a chapter header on this one. This is the next chapter. And it is entitled, A Dollar Saved is a Dollar Earned. Why did I create that as a new chapter? Because we're talking about strategies. And in survival strategies for World Wars 5 and 6, us getting out of the matrix of non-productive consumerism is going to be very, very important. So therefore, this is another chapter. A dollar saved is a dollar earned. 50 strategies. So if I started to include those today, the 50 strategies would obviously take me to the end of the chapter, or the end of way over time for today's broadcast. So I'm going to begin tomorrow. We're going to pick this up with this next chapter. A dollar saved is a dollar earned. 50 strategies. So that's what that's going to be about. As we explored, I'll just introduce what I'm going to be sharing tomorrow. As we explored in the chapter examining World War VI, one of the principal means by which the world's oligarchical elite keep us tethered to their exploitive matrix is through our addictions and consumer obsessions. Right now, as I speak, we are 11 days into the holiday shopping season 2024. According to the annual projections that I make in advance and usually confirm they turn out really well, it is expected that African Americans will be spending a total of 71.37 billion dollars during the months of November and December on surplus spending. This is a bubble for holiday shopping. Over the larger period, the nation, over 80 days, will spend well over $1 trillion for holiday shopping over that time period. I think for African Americans, for that 80-day period, it's $88 billion. But for the nation, it will be well over $1 trillion in pointless holiday consumerism. I can assure you this, very, very little of that money invested in consumption will be practical towards surviving and thriving during World Wars 5 and 6, which have commenced. As of 11 days into it, just speaking for black people in America, 11 days of spending of what amounts to, here, let me get this right. I'm going to just calculate these numbers. Normally I do this off the air because this become very important. So we're talking about 61 days, 71.37. And I'm going to put my zeros in to make that a billion. $71.37 billion divided by 61 days comes to $1,170,000,000 per day for 61 days in a row. $1,170,000,000 a day. Wow. Let me put this in here real quickly. I'll come back and just tomorrow I'll give you the complete. During this 2024, 61 days of November and December holiday shopping bubble, AfriAmers are predicted to spend 71.37 billion over this period, over these 2 months, amounting to a whopping, italicized, 1.170 1.170 billion per day. Wow, that's quite shocking. So I'm going to come back tomorrow, and let me clear it up. As I was just typing, I was making all kind of errors. A whopping $1.170 billion a day for 31 days. That's amazing, isn't it? But it is what it is. And rather than clean all that up right now, let me just clean it up tomorrow and elaborate on that. So that is the subject for tomorrow's conversation here on LAB Radio, LAB TV, and livinginblack.com. Much of what we're going to be spending our money on is actually in harming ourselves. Today, if you get my newsletter, you'll notice that I published the newsletter talking about our Christmas holiday shopping choices. And in these choices, I thought I would have, in these choices, we're talking about what are people going to do insofar as keeping themselves healthy. Yeah, I don't see that flyer. But what are we going to do? We have choices of what we eat, what we drink, how we act, how we exercise, how we're exposed to the sunshine during the winter months. And the consequence of our choices is an outcome that is life, literally life or death. The holiday season has the 3 most high death days of the year. Those 3 high death days are Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. The main cause for this bubble, this increase in deaths, this high rate of deaths on these 3 days and during the season is a combination of stress, consumption of pro-inflammatory foods, acidic foods, as well as the healthcare systems, emergency rooms and hospital rooms tend to be understaffed on those days and cannot handle the huge number of people coming in, so therefore high numbers of people die. The last 2 Christmas seasons, I lost close friends, mainly due to cardiovascular incidents, sudden cardiac arrest. But also strokes occur at very high occurrence during this time as well. You know this now well in advance. The worst part about it is during the wonderful holiday season, which is about family traditions and traditions that help us celebrate who we are, who we're connected to, our loved ones, then become distracted and burdened with members dying. Don't do that to your family. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your children. Don't do that to your grandchildren. Don't do that to your loved ones, your extended family. Instead of celebrating the season, don't make them stop to celebrate your transition. We're all going to pass, but let's put it off. Let's delay it for as much as we can so we can get as much of that high quality time in with our family as possible. And y'all just keep messing it up. I study this stuff every day. This morning I spent an extra hour just putting together this flyer to send out on my newsletter. And this flyer that I put together was really, I thought it was really quite awesome. I'm looking at it right now. I can show it to you. Healthy holidays, your choices. Let me just quickly push this up for you to see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to present this screen. And just as I go out, I have a couple more minutes here. I want to share this image that I created today. Share and push this up for you to see, add to the stage. This image entitled Healthy Holidays. Your choices determine your future. I write, the sad and tragic fact is that more than any other season of the year, the winter holiday season is the deadliest, with significant numbers of people suffering sudden cardiac arrest, stroke, and other impacts of increased stress. What we all need to know is that our choices of food, drink, and other controllable lifestyle factors have a significant impact on how we thrive during this time. Don't burden your family with a health emergency. Prevention is supreme. Eat to beat cancer and heart disease. Now, when I sent out the newsletter, that Eat to Beat Cancer and Heart Disease was part of a larger message that I sent out today to for about 1,400 people, slightly less than that are on my mailing list. Because the other part of what was alarming was what came across my news desk this morning, is that the high number of young adults now being diagnosed with cancer. High number, alarming number, made the news headlines. Maybe not all the news headlines, but I heard it on NPR. And they kind of buried it. It wasn't the headline leading story to me. It should have been the lead story. That we're seeing high numbers of people born in the 1980s and 1990s, which would put them as millennials. High numbers of millennials being diagnosed with cancer. And those of you who tuned in earlier to the program heard me broadcast some reports about people being diagnosed with cancer. Women's reproductive cancers, men's reproductive cancers, aggressive cancers of the blood, and other metastatic cancers affecting children. And much of that is about what we're consuming. And if you look at the screen on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see those frothy drinks, expensive drinks from Starbucks, some of them containing as much as 70 or more grams of sugar per container. That's like 3 times the daily recommended allowance of sugar. 3 times in just one cup, and you spend $6 for that? Shame, shame, shame. And that holiday spread, the turkey and the ham and the pies and the rolls and all of these things, too often is just really bad food combining. Plus, a lot of that food that's on that holiday spread is genetically engineered, genetically modified. You have turkeys and chickens that are growing today 4 times as large as they naturally grew half a century or less ago. What kind of chemicals are they using to pump up the size of these mutants? And why do you think that's healthy nutrition and food soaked in butter? People, we got to change. And that alcohol you see on the left-hand side, all of those holiday drinks and alcohol, this is the highest level where normal people who are not substance abusing or substance addicted, where normal people are going to be drinking a lot more liquor, alcohol, wine, beer, booze. I gave it all up once I found out and confirmed that alcohol is always it's a disruptor of neurotransmission. I quit it all. I can't go through life with my nervous system being assaulted. But we have choices. And on the right hand side of this photograph, I said we do have choices, choices of how we eat. And there I specifically showed you plant-based vegetables that make up my own diet. There's also vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin, just getting outside during this time of the year for 20 minutes a day, up to 45 minutes a day, letting the sun hit your skin. That's life affirming. Vitamin D, the sunshine hormone. And also exercise. How we would choose to exercise during this time of the year is a key indicator of how healthy will our holiday season be. So eat to beat cancer and heart disease. Your lifestyle choices could very well likely be the determination of whether your family celebrates this holiday season or mourns your passing during this sacred season of the year, this holiday season. And by sacred season, I don't mean shopping. I don't mean drinking. I don't mean eating to gluttony. I'm talking about every culture, every long-lasting, civilized, peace-loving culture has a seasonal celebration that celebrates peace, love, joy, generosity, reciprocity, that celebrates truth, justice, balance, harmony, propriety, order, ma'at. And we are a civilized people. We just hope that we're civilized in a sustainable manner, that Mother Earth, our great mother, also celebrates our civilization, our culture as well. On that note, I'm going to begin to wrap it up. I encourage you, contact me if you have issues with stress, substance abuse. You don't want to be abusing substances. Contact me. I would love to be a help. I would love to be on your team. I'd love to think that we are in this together. Now, I have asked you today, just our listening audience, to just hit the like button. We had a good sized audience. How many hit the like button? Only one person other than myself. So how are we going to build a future when we just won't cooperate, won't collaborate? And you saw by today's study that cooperation is a key tenet of successful application of game theory in geopolitics. And we, the grassroots people, we, the ones who are kissed by the breath of life in far greater numbers than those that exploit us, we refuse to do something as simple as just touch a button and say to the algorithms, I like this. We are in big trouble. And I'm not going to stop trying to get us to cooperate and collaborate. I'm not going to stop trying. I do believe in the power of the human spirit. I do believe that we can do great things as individuals, and that we can do even greater things as collective. So that is today's presentation, another chapter of the book, Disaster Preparedness for World Wars 5 and 6. The untold story of how the global economic and security order is shaping up for the 21st century. World Wars 1, 2, 3, 4 were pretty much relegated to the 20th century. World War IV has undeniably perpetuated and expanded well into the 21st century. That is the war, global war against Islam. We can do better than that. We'd better do better than that. We'd better come up with some mechanisms, strategies, some policies for preventing, mitigating, or negotiating an end to the conflicts that we call World Wars 5 and 6. Don't be afraid, I tell myself. Just be bold, be courageous, be active, be engaged, be a positive motivating factor. I would love to be a part of your world, especially when we're talking about health and prosperity. Text me if you need help to stay healthy during this holiday season. Text 702-580-0662 with the words "I am healthy." I am healthy. And I will get right back at you. And we can do the best we can. To do the best we can, always seeking to do better as we know more, as we gather more valuable insights and information. We can do what we will to do. And that's why you tune into your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio, LIB TV. We are living in black.com. Peace and prosperity to each and every one of you.